Chris W.'s comment on Please Hold for Dave Sam, January 2025, video 2. I noticed the, quote, marriage, unquote, part of the contract, too. This is the contract that I was pitched for doing service through DC in 1985. Am I misremembering, or was Dave and Denny's divorce the reason he even started looking into working with Marvel or DC on this, just to bring in some extra money? Or am I thinking of the epic stories or something else? No, the only thing that Denny and I separating in 1983 that touched on Marvel and DC was because Denny and I had a joint bank account, and Denny was spending money from the joint bank account on family matters, helping out her sister Adele, her older sister Adele, who lived out in I think it's Idaho. Yeah, I think it's Idaho. And I was going, I don't know how much this is going to happen, and I'm uncomfortable with these amounts of money flying out of here. So I actually phoned Jim Shooter and said, "Can you give me a quick here? I just have to do this sort of thing for Marvel Comics, and you could pay me, your top page rate, and pay me actually, doing business as Aardvark Anaheim as quickly as you can." And he said, "Yeah, that's fine." He said, "Why don't you do a series of pinups for Marvel Fanfare?" So that's where the original Sim portfolio that was in Marvel Fanfare came from. They paid a very generous page rate, and Marvel Fanfare was one of their prestige titles where they could afford to pay more than they usually did. But Adele got the check from Denny and said, "I really don't need this much," and just said, "I'll hang on to this much, and you can keep the rest." So that got reestablished in the Aardvark Anaheim joint account, and then that was the last time that Denny did that. So it was one of those overreaction things. Caution myself, don't you overreact to this. Just find a way to replace the money or some of the money, and then let's see how bad this problem gets before we start taking any other action. Don't do a stupid thing like, okay, I'm going to get a lawyer and sue you to prevent you from accessing the joint bank account. Then she would get a lawyer to countersue me for suing her, inappropriately, and then you're in the situation where all of your money is disappearing and it's just going to lawyers. It's not doing any good for anybody else. So I think that's the part that you're thinking of, Chris. But I did mention that at the time, and I think after the fact that this is what the original Sim portfolio was about. And I can certainly understand you going, okay, you was doing a multiple number of things at the time, but no, at the time, it definitely wasn't. The divorce is making it necessary for me to get into bed with DC. It was, is DC a possible, viable alternative or side hustle that I can sign on to that'll do great things for me, great things for Cerebus, great things for the bank account, and hopefully great things for DC.
So, when we back in January when you sent the contract, when I was posting it, I looked into it because there's a story that I remember hearing, and I was like, I wonder what the timeline is this. So a year before DC approached you, or before you approached DC about doing service, the head of DC, like DC's parent company, it wasn't quite Time Warner yet, but it was whoever owned them before Time Warner bought them, approached Marvel about selling or licensing DC's characters to Marvel, because basically at that point DC was the comics division was losing money, but they could make, the license division could make money anywhere except through comics, and Marvel was kicking their butts. So they approached Jim Shooter about, hey, we'll work out a deal to let you license our characters. And Shooter approached Marvel's corporate masters, who said, yeah, we could probably make a deal, and came up with a pitch. And Jim Shooter posted this, and explained it and showed what some, and like one of the things was John Byrne was going to do Superman, and I think Frank Miller was on deck to do Batman. And if this went through, and I looked at the timeline, I'm like, it was almost literally a year before you got the proposal from DC. I'm going, well, that's funny.
Yeah, and it was, I think somewhere in there, John Byrne went, no, John Byrne is John Byrne. John Byrne makes up his own decisions. If DC is interested in having John Byrne do Superman, maybe John Byrne will just go over to DC and do Superman. Let's see what kind of deal you can pitch to me. I'm not owned by Marvel, kind of thing.
I know that the post-crisis John Byrne Superman came out of this deal, but it was one of those, because that the story, the legend in the industry goes that Marvel and DC had an agreement that they wouldn't poach each other's artists, and then I was just reading my Mark Evaner's Jack Kirby book where that's what Jack always thought, and then it turned out that it was sort of something that Stan told him. It wasn't actually true. That you could go to DC if you wanted to just really piss Marvel off, and that's Jack got approached, and that's when Jack left. But I know that that's the mid '80s Marvel to DC thing that when after Crisis, I'm sure came out of this deal. One of the things I love about the deal was they were going to license 8 books, and one of the books was Legion of the Superheroes, and that Jim Shooter threw that in only because he used to write Legion of the Superheroes.
Right. Let's not let a good crisis go by as an opportunity, kind of thing.
But yeah, it was something that I was like, oh yeah, I got to mention this to Dave, because the timeline is just, because when I was building the timeline of, okay, so 85 you get the proposal, 86 you did High Society, and around the same time in beginning of 85 is when they got the proposal, and at the end of 85 is when you met the Turtle guys, and it's one of those, there's a 2-year window in comics history where a lot of things are going on, and this one thread is, the comic art metaphysics of, well, that's just kind of neat. There was a definite sense when I was negotiating with DC at most of the points, negotiating in quotation marks, negotiating small N. It never got to capital N negotiation. It was the John Byrne doing Superman thing pretty much eclipsed everything else having to do with creators relative to Marvel and DC. Not here's this character that we're going to do, but here's this creator that we're negotiating with, and it did knock over a bunch of dominoes. Then you get Frank Miller going, well, yeah, Frank Miller can do Batman. You don't have to, but you don't sign
sign an agreement with Marvel Comics to get Frank Miller to do Batman, Frank Miller can say, here's my Batman if you're interested in this. It's Dark Knight Returns, and because it was these supernovas exploding. Dave Sim with his little yellow sun down here in the corner was, we'll be happy to negotiate this with you, but obviously our minds are on different things and different perspectives, and picturing, this Superman renaissance that John Byrne was going to drive, for decades or a couple of decades. And it's like, I don't think you really know yourselves as a corporation, that the odds of anybody working happily for DC for a decade or happily for DC for a couple of decades, those are all in the past now. You don't know how to talk to creators. You don't know how to treat creators. And to whatever extent a creator could ignore what Marvel and DC were for the sake of, well, they can do good things for me and for my intellectual property and for my career, it's, and you can't even have lunch with you people and, without going, what am I doing here? What am I doing talking to people who think like this and talk like this? Okay, or Chris W.'s comment on video 1. If you had showed us the rabbi card, the world would now be a happier place. Unicorns would prance magically on vibrant windows across our consciousness. The air would take on an intoxicating, tangy aroma of Twinkies and root beer as we all live better, smile easier, and treat each other with simple human decency. But you didn't show us the rabbi card. It's all your fault. Guilty as charged. As I've been saying for decades now, I will take the blame for everything back to the Suez Crisis in 1956. Before that, I wasn't born. Same video had this comment from Rindle Leathered. Rind.
Sure.
How do you read that?
I copied and pasted it. I didn't even try to pronounce it.
Okay. R, bunch of letters. Allen and Ginter is one of the old-timey baseball card brands that Topps owns. They were originally a tobacco brand that included cards in the packs. That shows how old-timey they are, all the way back to the tobacco days. The current iteration is a high-end set, so made from nicer cardstock, and they have a lot of non-baseball subjects like famous people, places, and things. But it's still primarily a baseball set. And that's in reference to my Cerberus card that I got from Jeff Seiler, which is still right here in the picture frame with me downstairs at 103 College Street. And it is indeed Menagerie of the Mind, Cerberus, and it's a Topps card. So much appreciated for giving us a little more intel on that one. And Diogo Faria from Please Hold for Dave Sim, January 2025, video 10. Hey, Diogo, thank you so much for answering and pronouncing my name perfectly. Greetings from Portugal. And yes, please give Portugal all of our best wishes as well. And J-Tunes comments on Please Hold for Dave Sim 12/24/10. Wow, Dave's answers never disappoint. Oh, I'm glad to hear that somebody thinks that. I think my answers disappoint a lot of people. And his commentary on the state of Canada and thoughts on how to fix the addiction/homeless problem there was very thoughtful. Thanks again, everyone. And don't know if it's temporary, but you talk about your comic art metaphysics. The Junkie Clubhouse, also known as a safe injection site, mere blocks from the Off-White House, closed as of April 1st. The federal liberals are trying to make it impossible to close safe injection sites, and the federal judges are ruling that way. But the Ontario government, under Doug Ford, is saying, no, you can't have these junkie clubhouses within 200 yards of a daycare or a school. Duh. And that's helped. So that their funding ran out April 1st. They appealed the slashing of their funding, and now it is closed. And that's after, how long has it been open? I think 6 years, 5 years. To all of our American friends, if anybody in your state or your county starts talking about safe injection sites and safe supply as the way to fix the opioid crisis, run as fast as you can in the other direction. We're decades, if you include British Columbia, we're decades into this cesspool in Canada, and no chance of actually coming out on the other side. Hopefully this is a sign that, yes, there is another side, and we will get back to the common sense that government has no place financing and sheltering illegal behavior, and possession of opioids needs to be illegal behavior. And Arshdeep Singh comment on Please Hold for Dave Sim 12/24/7. W2F is this. I could go on. Manly Matt Dow says, my email displayed 1 of 50 of many when I searched for YouTube comments. But if they were really important, I'd include them in next month's cues. Because besides, we live in the now. And, quote, yes, Virginia, Matt does read all the comments, unquote. I got to tell you, my hat's off to you if you can, because it's a rule of thumb. Don't read the comments, right?
I'm pretty sure reading the comments is now in the dictionary as part of the definition of a masochist.
Yeah. Probably in the psychological profiles books as well. If you're looking for a vital sign of somebody with mental health troubles, reading the comments online is a sure sign that they maybe need an intervention from friends and family.
I mean, I read them. I don't necessarily like them.
That's the admirable part, because it's like, I think the inclination, particularly when you're running something like a moment of Cerebus, would be to go, what is the use? I give up. I've tried my best to make something good that everybody can participate in, and this is the thanks that I get.
Mostly, the part of my week where I go, this is the best part for posting, is a couple weeks back on Mondays, I decided to run the Strange Death of Alex Raymond pages from Glamourpuss in order, and basically teeing up the fact that on Tuesdays is when Jen posts the update with the Strange Death of Alex Raymond GoFundMe. So the preamble is copied and pasted every week of, keying up Jen, I'm going to run this. And then it's the 10 pages from, I think I'm up to issue 18.
Right.
And it's and the reason I like doing it is because I know the Glamour Puss pages are not necessarily going to make it into the final Strange Death of Alex Raymond, because there's things in there that, you got details wrong, like Stan Drake's studio not being in a big office building and stuff like that. And also, new research came out that went, oh, yeah, okay, so, made a mistake there, this was wrong there, and, you're correcting it for the future version. But it's nice to have the proto version, as I call it, and because it's got some great art, and, and the part I love is that you did a lot of double page spreads, and I can't post them that way because the pictures are too big, so I cut them in half, and no one has noticed yet that, like, there's a few times where I've cut word balloons in half.
Right.
And I just, it's it's Monday, okay, this won't take more than 20 minutes, and it usually takes about 20-25 minutes to get everything ready, and it goes up, and it's like, Mondays I don't have to worry anymore. It's the Monday report now, because that came back because Ramadan's over, and then here's 10 pages of Dave art from over a decade ago, almost decade and a half.
Yeah.
And there's some beautiful art in there, and nobody's commented, and I'm going, I wonder if anybody's noticing.
That's a tough call. I think that's probably the other pitfall of trying to do things online, as this will be helpful and informative, and allow people to participate and get caught up, and et cetera. And I don't know how many people online even engage with what they're doom scrolling through, and if there isn't enough doom at your website, and I don't think there's enough doom at Moment of Cerebus from most people's perspective, it's like, okay, well, that was interesting, but now I got to find something to really grind my molars, and this looks like a likely candidate over here. Let's click on this button. The top 10 whatever things meant to irritate people with your political leanings.
Yeah,